Aos 21 anos, o finlandês Linus Torvalds criou o Linux, sistema operacional livre que está presente na maioria dos computadores que armazenam o conteúdo da internet. Agora, aos 40, Torvalds visitou o Brasil pela primeira vez e, em entrevista exclusiva ao G1, falou sobre o nascimento do Linux, o estado atual do desenvolvimento do sistema e deu conselhos para quem quer seguir seus passos.
And I actually thought when I was small I'd grow up to be a scientist. My grandfather was a mathematician at the university. My uncle was a physicist. So I kind of came from that background. And then I just got sucked into computers instead. It's still a hobby. It's still a hobby. It's the best kind of hobby. I mean, it's the kind of hobby that you take really, really seriously. It's also, the fact that it's also my work is, to me, personally secondary. I mean, it's, I still do it not because people pay me, but because it's the most interesting thing I can imagine doing. I don't do a lot of coding on the kernel itself. I end up being the person who brings together, takes other people's work and merges it into the kernel, decides when things get released, when I can merge something, when it's stable enough that I can take new code into the kernel, and then I make releases. And it's a lot of communication, actually. It's the release process, and it's talking to people, mainly over email. I never meet developers face-to-face except at conferences like this, and talking about the issues we have and what needs to get solved before I can do a release and things like that. For government purposes in particular, openness is very important. I think it's important because, not just because the government wants to control its own IT infrastructure, I think it's important also for the people. I think it's important that people also feel that government is open in all respects, that you know what the issues are, that there's nothing hidden. And I think that's true of infrastructure for IT as well as just the discussion in general in politics. Oh yeah, I mean, it's definitely already a viable alternative. I mean, I use it every day. I think, in fact, in the US, Android now outsells the iPhone. I mean, does that mean that development has ended? No. I mean, we're still working on it, and I think, in fact, in many ways, it will help that there are now lots of devices, small devices running Linux. It makes it easier for people to find people to develop for that kind of form factor. It used to be that it was easy to find people to program for a desktop environment because there were a lot of PCs around. It's also people want to program for what they use. So if you use a desktop or a laptop as your main tool, most programmers would want to program for that environment because that's the environment you're comfortable with. To me, a tablet is kind of inconvenient. It's big enough that you can't put it in your pocket unless you have a really big pocket. And at the same time, it's like, so it's not completely portable. And at the same time, it's also somewhat limited when it doesn't have a keyboard. So to me, tablets are, I don't know. I'll have to see how it works out, but I'm not convinced. I like to do my real work with a real keyboard and a big screen. And then I would like to have something small and really portable to take with me when I move around. So for me, the right choice is a laptop or a desktop and a cell phone. And the tablet seems to me to be pretty awkward. When I did it, when I started, it wasn't because I wanted to change the world. I did it because I was just really interested in computers. So my advice to some degree would just be that try to find something that you're really interested in. You have to do it constantly for many, many years. I mean, whether it's sports, whether it's computers, whether it's music, anything, you need to spend hours and hours every day for 10 years. And if you do that, you'll be the best at something, right? But the only way you are ever going to spend hours and hours every day is if you find something that you're interested enough in doing.